Hi everyone, welcome back. Today I'll be doing the Pleasurable Book Tag. This is an original tag created by Lee over at Not Entirely Human TV. Erin over at the wrathsqueen also did a version of this tag, and I was tagged by both of them. So what it is just discussing your most pleasurable reads, trilogies, standalones, individual books, audiobooks, whatever they happen to be, and there's a series of 5 questions, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. The first question is, which book gives you the most pleasure to read? And that would be referring to like a standalone book, an audiobook, it can even be a picture book. These questions really make you think about the books you've read, the books in your collection, and trying to narrow them down to that one specific book or series, and found it really difficult. I'm not even sure maybe I made the right choices in some of these, but for most of them I'm 99.9% certain. So anyway, for this first one, the book that gives me the most pleasure to read, and which I've read over and over again, that would be To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. I own this as an audiobook as well. I've also owned the movie with Gregory Peck. I was introduced to this story in high school as one of those required school reading. It, of course, deals with some very serious issues with racism and civil rights in the Deep South during the 1930s. A black man is accused of raping a white woman, and a man named Atticus Finch is hired to defend him. And he also has 2 young children, Scout, who is the narrator of our story. She's older at the time she's narrating the story. She's looking back on what happened. And her older brother, Jem. And the part that I enjoy most, although that is very intriguing in that whole part of the story, I enjoy the interactions between the children, Scout and her brother Jem, and their friend Dill, who comes to visit every summer. I love the imagination of the children, the games they're playing, the character of Boo Radley, this mysterious shut-in who lives down the street, and the stories they've heard or have made up, and the kind of whole spooky creepiness of this character. You don't really know much about him until towards the very end of the book. So that whole aspect of the story, I just found, it just kind of brought me back to being a kid myself, and the games and things I'd play with my brother, who's an older brother. Yeah, I enjoyed that aspect of it the most, and for that, I kind of just, and the writing style of this book is just amazing. I can understand why she won a Pulitzer Prize. Unfortunately, this is the only full-length novel that she ever wrote. So I understand she's written short stories or things in magazines, but I've never picked up anything else that she's read or come across anything else. So I really, really enjoyed this book and the story. So this one was my top standalone book. The second question is, which series of books gives you the most pleasure to read? A series being more than 3 books, so more than a trilogy. And of course I could have gone the obvious route of Harry Potter, but I'm going to save the Harry Potter part for another question in this tag. So the next series of books that I probably enjoy the most, read the most, love everything about this whole series, and that will be the Hollows series by Kim Harrison. I don't own all of them in a hardcover book format, which I'm kind of building my collection now. I've got a few more books I need to get. I'm waiting for this one to arrive. This is actually book 1, and I have the audio version of this. This is Dead Witch Walking. And there are quite a few books in this series. This is The Good, the Bad, and the Undead. That's book 2. And then again, I need this one. This is Every Which Way But Dead, number 3. And number 4, A Fistful of Charms. For A Few Demons More. And there's The Outlaw Demon Whales. I was lucky enough to be able to pick up a signed first edition of that one. White Witch Black Curse. These have just really cool covers too. This one's just an ARC copy. I still need to replace this with a hardcover copy. It's Black Magic Sanction. Then there's Pale Demon. That's quite a big series. This is A Perfect Blood. And the latest, which I just finished reading this year, and that's Ever After. And this is our main character, Rachel Morgan. You're first introduced to her in Dead Witch Walking. She's a white witch who's running a bounty hunting service with her friend Ivy, who happens to be a vampire. And I think it's a little later, maybe in the first book or into the second book, where they live in an unused church. Later becomes a partner of theirs is Jenks, who's a pixie. So there's 3 of them running this bounty hunting agency, and the interactions between these characters are just amazing. The character development of every single character you're introduced to in this series is just so detailed, and Rachel herself changes so much from the White Witch you're introduced to in the beginning all the way through who she is and what she is and ever after. I just loved every minute I've encountered in this series. There's so much going on, but it's never overwhelming. There are so many different paranormal creatures in there, from banshees to werewolves to the vampires to the witches, pixies, fairies, everything. And somehow she makes it all work and believable, and it's just amazing. There are, humans in there as well, of course, and the humans are aware of some of these other elements. It's not like they're like a hidden part of society. There's something to do with a virus that was transmitted through tomatoes, and I'm not going to get into that, but that's a really cool part of the series, and I just enjoy them so much. I've reread them, I've listened to them on the audio tapes when I'm driving back and forth in the car. I just, in fact, redid the whole series so I could catch up in time to read the latest one, so very much enjoying and constantly enjoy the series, and I highly recommend it. Number 3 is, which trilogy gives you the most pleasure to read? Now, that one, it was hard, because if you've seen one of my most recent videos, it's the unfinished series tag. There are, and that's actually grown since I've done that. There was a lot I think I accidentally left out. But there weren't a lot of, there's not a lot of those trilogies that I've completed. I've completed some duologies. I think one of the few trilogies I could even remember completing is the Hunger Games trilogy. A little mixed on Mockingjay, the 3rd book in that series. But, I mean, I enjoyed it. I don't know if it was the most pleasurable one I've read. In the Maze Runner, I finished the Maze Runner trilogy part of it. Again, Death Cure, But, nothing that I remember so much about it. I actually picked one that I've not even yet finished, and I'm actually currently reading book 3, because I've enjoyed every minute since I've read them. I love the characters. I love the combination of the plots going on in here, and without further ado, that's the Saving Mars trilogy by Sydney Swanson. I first became aware of this because the author sent me this first book. I'd read her Ripple trilogy as an ebook series, and she offered to send this one to me, which she very kindly signed, and said this was a new series she was starting, and it was in the sci-fi genre, and I love sci-fi. And as I got into reading this, I found out there was also a dystopian element to it, my most favorite genre. So the combination of those two was excellent. It was a really original idea. I love the main character, Jess. Just everything. The action scenes are amazing. It doesn't let up. The pacing is perfect. I got so into this first book that before I finished it, I made sure I had Defying Mars ordered and arrived just in time so I could jump right into it. And again, no let up. This is not like a second book kind of filler in a series. It was equally on par with book 1 in terms of action and suspense and plot development, everything. So as I'd finished this one up in a little bit of time, not much time had gone by, when a fellow book blogger mentioned that, hey, did you know book 3 was out? And I had no idea, so I jumped on it, and that was the final one, Losing Mars, which I am currently about halfway through. So again, I haven't completed this trilogy, but I am enjoying every moment of it. We get a great look to the whole series, the character development, like I said, and this whole dystopian aspect of it is just fantastic, and I highly recommend this one. So this is my top trilogy so far. This 4th question, which author gives you the most pleasure to read? And again, this is where I decided to put in Harry Potter. I haven't read Casual Vacancy, which is still sitting over there, maybe eventually. But her writing style, I just enjoyed so much. Her characters, Harry Potter, the whole world, Hogwarts, everything about this. From even the first sentence, this was one of my favorite first sentences in the last video I just did. Mr. and Mrs. Dursley of number 4 Privet Drive were proud to say that they were perfectly normal. Thank you very much. Just the way she turns a sentence, and her characters, everything about these are just amazing. She has created an empire with Harry Potter. It has developed into such a love worldwide, and I can thoroughly understand that. I'm curious to see how she does Casual Vacancy. I'm kind of I keep pushing that back, I think, because it originally had a lot of hype, people were expecting so much of it, then they got that let down. So I'm going to just kind of come in with a fresh idea and just a bit of a blank slate and take it for what it is and see if I like it. Because there have been a couple that I noticed, a couple book viewers that seem to find it favorable. So, but in terms of this whole series, even Tales of Beetle the Bard, I've enjoyed every one of those. Well, I wish she'd write another young adult series, but we'll see. But I love those. And then the final question is, what is your most pleasurable reading experience to date? It could be you took a book on a trip and it was such a marvelous trip, or the setting where you were reading it, or just the experience of that book itself. And this was a little bit hard. I had to narrow it down. I haven't gone on any vacations where I've taken a book with me or something. So I couldn't use that, for setting wise, or I was on a beach and it was beautiful and the waves were crashing and I was reading this wonderful book. No, it wasn't anything like that. For me, it was the book itself. And it's actually, I have a bind up of it, and it's the second book in this series by Isaac Asimov in the robot novels, and it was The Naked Sun. And the reason I chose this one is actually it was a school reading title. It's the same English teacher who assigned us To Kill a Mockingbird and also assigned us The Naked Sun. And after, you can imagine most of the books you get assigned in school reading for high school are, all the classics. Catcher in the Rye, any of those types of things. John Steinbeck's East of Eden, whatever, all those types of books. And this was just so off the mark. I mean, this is sci-fi, wow, this is pretty cool. I haven't read anything by Isaac Asimov. This opened my eyes to such an amazing author. When I started reading this, I found out there's also this whole mystery element to it. This is where you first find out about I think it's the 3 laws of robotics. And there's a murder has taken place on this planet, and the only beings surrounding this person's body are robots. And it's such an isolated society that people are almost, I forget what the phobia is, agoraphobic, where they don't really leave their homes. So no one would have gone to visit this person, and you're trying to figure out how was this person killed. And so I love the sci-fi and the mystery element of it. It kind of launched me into, I was already a reader at a certain point, but this kind of launched me in a whole new interest in the mysteries and sci-fi. And I started reading so many different authors. I read a lot of his other books. I sought out the other books in this series. It was just so enjoyable to, for once, get a book in school that wasn't a boring classic. Let's put it that way. At least at that age, I found things like that boring. So it just opened my eyes to a whole new genre, a couple different genres of books that I hadn't before really read that much. And it was just so wonderful that's why I picked that particular title. So, yeah, that is the Pleasurable Book Tag. So I want to thank Lee for creating it and for tagging me. Also Erin for tagging me. And I'm going to go ahead and tag these people. I'll put a list right about here. And thank you for watching, and go ahead and put in your comments down below what your favorite, most pleasurable, I should say, reads are, trilogies, series, whatever. So I hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.